This year's Nobel Prize in Chemistry celebrates a discovery that sounds like magic, yet stands to solve very real problems. Three scientists, Susumu Kitagawa of Kyoto University, Richard Robson of the University of Melbourne, and Omar Yaghi of the University of California, Berkeley, have been honored for the development of metal-organic frameworks, better known as MOFs. Because these materials can hold far more than their modest appearance suggests, chemists affectionately compare them to Hermione's bottomless handbag from the Harry Potter series. So what makes an MOF so special? At first glance, it looks like an ordinary powder, but zoom in and you'll find an intricate lattice riddled with nanoscale pores. That honeycomb interior gives a single gram of MOF an internal surface area roughly equal to a football field. The upshot? A pinch of the material can trap or release surprising amounts of gas, liquid, or even medicine. Building one is a bit like assembling a molecular kit. Metal ions serve as the connecting joints, while organic molecules act as the struts that link those joints together. By choosing different metals and linkers, researchers can design rigid, three-dimensional frameworks with tailor-made pore sizes and chemical personalities, a strategy the laureates call reticular chemistry. Instead of taking what nature offers, chemists can now custom-build materials for a specific task. That control opens the door to technology with global impact. Capturing carbon. MOFs can be tuned to behave like ultra-selective filters, grabbing carbon dioxide from smokestacks or even directly from the air. Locking away CO2 before it reaches the atmosphere could slow the pace of climate change. Storing clean fuel. Hydrogen is an appealing zero-emission fuel, but its low density makes safe, lightweight storage difficult. The cavernous interior of certain MOFs can pack large amounts of hydrogen at low pressure, bringing hydrogen-powered cars and trucks a step closer to everyday use. Harvesting water from desert air. Some frameworks act like microscopic dehumidifiers, pulling water molecules out of even arid air and releasing drinkable water when warmed by sunlight. For communities facing chronic drought, that could be transformative. Purifying the environment. Other MOFs trap toxic gases, remove forever chemicals from drinking water, or scrub industrial exhaust, offering a versatile toolkit for pollution control. Delivering medicine. In the lab, researchers are loading drug molecules into MOF pores so that treatments can be ferried through the body and released exactly where they're needed. The field has exploded since Kitagawa, Robson, and Yaghi laid its foundations. Chemists have now reported tens of thousands of distinct frameworks, and the combinations of metals and linkers still left to explore seem almost limitless. By honoring MOFs, the Nobel Committee underscores a simple truth. Breakthroughs in fundamental science can ripple outward, reshaping industries and addressing urgent global challenges. From cleaner energy to safer water, these Hermione's handbag materials may soon prove that, with smart chemistry, there's always room for one more solution.
This is AI TV News. Artificial intelligence powerhouse Nvidia says it will keep sponsoring H-1B visas and will even pay a new, eye-watering government surcharge, an announcement that instantly put the company at the heart of a national fight over immigration and innovation. The uproar began on September 19, 2025, when President Donald Trump signed a proclamation slapping a $100,000 fee on every new H-1B petition. Until now, companies paid roughly $2,000 to $5,000. The administration argues the steep hike will curb abuse of the program and push firms to hire U.S. workers first. The stakes are enormous. The H-1B visa lets American employers recruit highly skilled foreign talent, engineers, data scientists, researchers, who are in chronically short supply at home.
Indian and Chinese professionals hold the largest share of these visas, and many awoke to headlines describing chaos, panic, and uncertainty about their future in the United States. Enter Jensen Huang. In a memo to Nvidia's global staff, the CEO, himself an immigrant, promised the company would shoulder the entire $100,000 fee. The miracle of Nvidia would not be possible without immigration, he wrote, calling legal migration essential to keeping the U.S. at the forefront of technology and ideas. For a firm whose market value sits in the trillions, the pledge is expensive but manageable. Smaller tech companies don't have that luxury. Founders are warning that the new cost is a catastrophe for startups already operating on thin margins. Critics say the policy could choke off exactly the kind of nimble competition that spurs breakthroughs, and that the talent will simply go elsewhere. Many economists back that concern. Studies show skilled foreign workers often complement, not replace, U.S. employees, helping create additional jobs and even new industries. Icons like Microsoft's Satya Nadella and Google's Sundar Pichai arrived in America on visas. Today, their companies employ hundreds of thousands of U.S. workers. Meanwhile, unemployment in key engineering specialties remains near historic lows, underscoring the talent gap. Legal pushback was swift. On October 3rd, a coalition of unions, employers, and advocacy groups sued in federal court, arguing the president overstepped his authority by imposing such a fee without congressional approval. They're seeking an injunction to freeze the policy while the case proceeds, injecting even more uncertainty into hiring plans for 2026. Other nations see an opening. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney called the U.S. fee an opportunity for Canada, and Britain's Chancellor Rachel Reeves vowed to streamline pathways for tech recruits. Recruiters in both countries report a surge of interest from engineers who now view America as too risky or expensive. By publicly absorbing the new cost, Nvidia has drawn a sharp line. The company will pay whatever it takes to keep the best minds working on its chips and AI models. Yet the broader question remains unanswered. Will America's new price tag on talent deter the next generation of innovators or inspire a legal and political course correction? The coming months will reveal whether Nvidia's stance is a one-off show of corporate strength or the spark that forces Washington to rethink a policy with global repercussions. One thing is already clear. In the race for ideas, talent follows the path of least resistance, and the finish line just shifted.
In an unprecedented move, 6 former United States Surgeons General have joined forces to issue a stark public warning. In an opinion piece published on October 7, 2025, the bipartisan group, appointed by presidents from both parties stretching back to George H.W. Bush, labeled the nation's current Health and Human Services Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy, Jr., an unprecedented threat to the country's health. This is the first time such a joint warning has ever been issued by this group of former top doctors. In this segment, we'll explain who these surgeons general are, what their specific accusations are against Secretary Kennedy, and what this extraordinary alarm means for the health of all Americans. To understand the weight of this warning, it's important to understand the roles involved. The Surgeon General is often called the nation's doctor. While they have limited direct power, their role is to be a highly visible, trusted voice on public health, famously issuing warnings on issues like the dangers of smoking. The position Secretary Kennedy holds, however, is far more powerful. The Secretary of Health and Human Services, or HHS, oversees one of the largest civilian agencies in the federal government. With a budget of nearly $2 trillion, HHS is in charge of agencies that impact the life of every American, including the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, the National Institutes of Health, the NIH, as well as Medicare and Medicaid. The person in this role directs policy that affects everything from vaccine approvals to medical research and health insurance for tens of millions. The 6 former surgeons general, who include Donald Trump's own appointee, Jerome Adams, say they were compelled by their oaths as physicians to speak out. Their op-ed outlines a series of grave concerns. They accuse Secretary Kennedy of sidelining science in favor of ideology and misinformation. In their words, science and expertise have taken a back seat. They report that morale inside the nation's health agencies has plummeted, that top scientific talent is leaving, and that a culture of intimidation is pressuring officials to approve conclusions not backed by evidence. A central focus of their criticism is Kennedy's long history of promoting discredited claims about vaccines. They point specifically to his advancement of the debunked theory that childhood vaccines cause autism. The Surgeons General also highlight his actions during the worst measles outbreak in 30 years, which led to 3 preventable deaths. They allege that during this crisis, Kennedy de-emphasized vaccination in favor of unproven vitamin therapies. The warning also details specific policy and personnel changes. The Surgeons General condemn Kennedy for firing all members of the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, or ACIP. This is the independent group of experts that provides crucial vaccine recommendations for the country. The Surgeons General claim they were replaced with individuals who lack basic qualifications, including some described as vaccine conspiracy theorists. This move was followed by the cancellation of $500 million in mRNA vaccine research projects. This turmoil came to a head with the firing of the former director of the CDC, Susan Monarez. She later testified before the Senate that she was fired after she refused to rubber stamp Kennedy's policies without a proper scientific review. She stated that Kennedy demanded she commit in advance to approving all recommendations from his newly formed vaccine committee, regardless of the scientific evidence, and that he also directed her to fire career officials without cause. In her testimony, Monarez said, "Even under pressure, I could not replace evidence with ideology." The White House stated Monarez was terminated because she was not aligned with the president's agenda. The criticism from the medical community extends beyond the 6 surgeons general. 2 psychiatric organizations have also called for Kennedy's removal. They are alarmed by his approach to mental health and substance abuse care, stating his actions have increased stigma and hurt access to care. They criticize his proposals for wellness farms for the homeless and his claim that common antidepressants are more addictive than heroin. In response to the Surgeons General's op-ed, the Department of Health and Human Services issued a statement. A Health and Human Services spokesperson, Andrew Nixon, accused the former officials of criticizing the first secretary to confront the decline in America's public health after they presided over it. The statement continued, "We remain committed to restoring trust, reforming broken health systems, and ensuring that every American has access to real choice in their health care."
Throughout these controversies, President Trump has stood by Secretary Kennedy, hosting him at the White House, and himself suggesting links between vaccines and autism. This situation represents a profound clash over the direction of American public health. On one side, 6 former surgeons general from both political parties, along with other medical groups, have taken the historic step of sounding a public alarm, arguing that the nation's health is being endangered by a leader who rejects science. On the other side, the current administration defends its actions as necessary reforms to a failed system, with the backing of the president. At its core, this is a battle over trust. Trust in science, trust in government institutions, and trust in the information Americans receive about their own health and safety.